Welcome to NRL 360 Rugby League from every angle. Joining me again, the great Gordon Tallis.
Hey,
Let's bring the journos in, Paul Crawley and Dave Riccio. And well, there's never a dull moment in Rugby League, Gordy.
No, there's not. No, it's not, but I wish you'd change clubs. I just wish it would change clubs.
It's the Broncos again, Crawls.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? The premiers from last year, and there's just not a dull week up there, is there? Like, you know, you had Payne Haas, you had the start of the season, you had the grand final replay, you think everything's hunky-dory, and today the big news.
Quite extraordinary. And on the back of that great win against the Melbourne Storm, again, Broncos back in the headlines.
We've got a huge show coming up, Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies, but let's cross live now to the Courier Mail's Peter Bedell, who's at Suncorp Stadium. Bomber, you broke a massive story today. Talk us through what happened.
Yeah, good evening, Braith. Look, a huge story here. Some ructions at Red Hill today. Ben Teo, the assistant coach of the Broncos, has tendered his resignation. Now, this is a bombshell development for the Broncos. Not even their CEO, Dave Donaghy, saw it coming. He was, I'm told, in a heated verbal altercation with Michael Maguire, the head coach, a couple of days ago before the game against the Storm. And then I'm told that they tried to have some crisis talks on Monday night between Ben Teo, Michael Maguire and the head of football, Troy Thompson, to try and smoke the peace pipe, to come to a resolution. That wasn't forthcoming. I'm told that Ben Teo, for some reason, seems to be offended by the latest ructions with Michael Maguire, and he tendered his resignation this morning. Huge decision by Teo, just 4 rounds into the season. It is a real bombshell development. It's a shock to all at Red Hill. So even some of the leading players at the Broncos, guys, weren't aware of it. Adam Reynolds wasn't aware until late last night, the captain. So this is a huge move from Ben Teo, but he's been running, of course, in the blue shirt for the Broncos in games. They'll have to find another assistant. A real shock. Let's hope it doesn't derail their season.
But you said it's a shock. How do the Broncos hierarchy and players feel about this?
Well, a lot of them weren't aware of it. And also, Dave Donaghy, the CEO today, talked about the fact that Michael Maguire was pained by the decision. That was his exact word. But he also makes no apologies, Braith, in the sense that he said, look, we want to be a high-performance organisation. We're backing the head coach. And if an assistant wants to move on, that's his prerogative. But they want to set some high standards, and they're prepared to back Michael Maguire. Now, the coach has come under a lot of criticism, as we know. There's been talk about his training methods. There's been talk about whether he's off with the players, whether he's lost the dressing room. It seems now like he's lost one of his assistants, not only in terms of head count, but whether there's a mutiny among his staff. And Dave Donaghy's resolute. He says, we're standing by what we believe in. Michael Maguire was hired to bring a premiership. He's done that in his first season, and unfortunately, Ben Teo has a different point of view. He's decided to go in another direction, but it's going to be business as usual for the Broncos. It has to be against the Dolphins in the Battle of Brisbane on Friday night. It's a big game for them.
But you said there was a heated exchange last week before the Melbourne game, but what's the real reason for the departure? Do you know what that exchange was about or why he's left?
Well, Braith, look, I broke the story, and I've had some information about Ben Teo and Michael Maguire for some time. Look, it's multifaceted. Now, one of the things I'm told is that Ben Teo is highly principled, and he's very driven in terms of the defensive principles he set for this Broncos team. He's been the defensive coach. Now, I'm told that they didn't always see eye to eye, Madge and Teo, over some of the defensive patterns, some of the defensive methodologies and the way they wanted to run things. Now, that's natural. I mean, you're going to have coaches at all clubs that don't always see eye to eye, aren't always on the same page. And it is the head coach's prerogative, I imagine, sometimes to call the shots as they see fit. That's why they're the head coach. But I'm also hearing, Braith, that Ben Teo last year was approached by Josh Hannay, the Titans coach, to join his coaching staff. One of the things that Hannay had recommended to Queensland coach Billy Slater was that Ben Teo be an assistant coach for the Origin team this year. I'm told that Billy Slater approached Ben Teo about the job. Ben Teo went to Michael Maguire in the Broncos and they vetoed the move. Now, that would be, I think, enormously disappointing for Ben Teo. And it was not only a decision by Maguire, it was formalised by Dave Donaghy, the CEO. So they had already lost Matt Ballin as an assistant with the Maroons. They didn't want to lose a second guy. So whether that was also a factor, I believe it was. But it's multifaceted. But at the end of the day, it seems like Ben Teo didn't have his heart totally in the job, and he wants a change.
Gordy Bomber, you've always got your finger on the pulse. Before you go, though, mate next to me, Gordy.
Hey, Pete, just quickly, mate, what's the optics on Adam Reynolds playing this week? Oh, there you go.
Well, I'm
Let's
just looking at him
start,
over
mate.
here, Gordy. He's getting a needle on his ribs. He's playing, believe it or not, Gordy. He's got a clearance from the medical staff.
There you go.
Good on you, Bomber.
And no plane flights.
Good on you, mate. Have a good week. Thank you for the information.
Thanks, boys. Payne Haas is out, by the way, Gordy, so maybe you've got Payne this week. I don't know.
There you go. No, I won't argue with him. He's a bit bigger than me.
All right, good on you, Bomber. What about that, hey? Now, it's pretty critical information there that Peter Bedell's given us, and a big move from Ben Tia to quit the Broncos after just 3 rounds, after a win against the Melbourne Storm. Grand final rematch coming from 14 points behind, Gordy.
Yeah.
What's your take on all of this?
Well, it's strange. I'm sure that not every assistant coach and coach sees eye to eye on how they're going or what they do every week, and it's strange that the success that they've had, that the relationship has split apart like this. To me, I'm shocked. He's just re-signed, a 4-year deal to go there, and there was talks of him coming to the Titans, and I did hear that, and it would have been great to have Ben, but we've got our staff now. But for him to stay at the Broncos, he thought that there could have been a dynasty here where they were going to go on and there's multi-premierships, but 4 rounds in, well, he's decided to leave.
It's interesting. There's no question in the world this has been rumbling on, we find out now, for some time. Like, you don't have a blow-up like this and quit your job after one set to with the coach. This has been going on behind the scenes. I found it interesting that Bomber just mentioned there how Billy had approached Madge to try and get a clearance for T.O. to go on the Queensland coaching staff. Like, when Madge was at Canberra as an assistant coach, wasn't he coaching the Kiwis, then he got the New South Wales job, he was still there, and he was applying for other jobs. So I just found that quite fascinating.
The thing that gets me, guys, is the narrative that the Broncos are shocked and surprised by this bombshell decision by Ben Tia to tender his resignation today. When, in the space of one day, journalists like myself and Pete Bedell and Brent Reid and Mick Carianis and the rest of the team can uncover clearly a trail of disruption and disharmony in regards to Ben's working arrangement with the Brisbane Broncos. So I find it bizarre, to say the least, on why the Broncos are so shocked this has eventuated. And the fact that Ben Tia was knocked back from the position of Queensland Origin coach assistant role, there's no doubt in the world he was rocked by that. I mean, let's put that into the context, guys. Let's think about an assistant coach who believes one day he wants to be an NRL coach. How is it not a wonderful appointment for the Brisbane Broncos that one of their own are inside Queensland camp? One, it's outstanding that he would be working with the best players in the game. Two, you become a conduit for recruitment because those elite players understand how you coach. And three, as a development process for T.O. as a coach, none better. Origins, under high pressure of Origin. I got no doubt that played a major factor in his exit today.
The Broncos CEO addressed the media this afternoon after assistant coach Ben Tia quit.
Yeah, look, we've had a number of conversations with Ben over the past 24 hours. It was certainly a conversation we didn't see coming, to be fair. And look, Ben's tendered his resignation, which we're working through now. And I had a conversation with Ben myself yesterday, and that part of it needs to stay private and confidential, I think. We'll continue to offer support to them. Their well-being is without doubt our primary, or has always been our primary concern, looking after our people. Madge and Ben go a long way back. They've had some wonderful times together as well. They won a comp at South Sydney. They won a comp last year, 6 months ago, at the Broncos, which was an amazing experience. One of the things that I really enjoy about working with Madge is the constant communication. And we've had a number of conversations today about what it looks like at the moment and what it looks like moving forward. I don't think a lot's going wrong with the club, to be fair. I think a lot of external perceptions or views don't marry up with what's happening internally. And on the weekend, let's not forget, Friday night, for the first time in 10 years, we beat Melbourne in Melbourne.
Donaghy there spoke for about 20 minutes in this press conference this afternoon. I watched every bit of it, and to be honest, I didn't get hardly anything out of it, to be fair. How do you think the Broncos have handled this?
Well, what was interesting in what he said there was that the club's given assistance to his well-being, his family's well-being, and there was a lot of rumblings coming out of Brisbane today that this may have had something to do with Ben Te'o's mental health and he was stepping away. And I got told that's absolute bullshit. This is to do with the fact he's had a gutful working with Madge. That's not us putting a spin on it. That's the truth of Ben Te'o's situation. And so you look at there, and Dave says everything's hunky-dory at the club. They've won a premiership, they've won, the grand final rematch, they've got all the sponsorships and memberships and everything. But what they haven't got going forward is they haven't got Payne Haas, right? They haven't got their defence coach now. Now, everyone says defence is what wins premierships. And Ben Te'o last year was credited with the fact when the Broncos were going through that tough period where they'd lost 4 games in a row, and I think it culminated in a big loss to Manly at Brookvale, Ben Te'o was the one that could read the room. And he figured that these boys need to get out and we need to enjoy ourselves. And so he convinced Madge to let him go for a beer, and he'd spoken to Carrigan about it. But it was his ability to have that rapport with the players and pull them aside and keep them on the path. And then that put them on the trajectory to win the grand final. And so without that, you do have to worry about what may happen going forward, because Madge's history is that he can go in and he can get the job done. But unfortunately, things can go pear-shaped after that.
Crawls is right. Absolutely, Ben Te'o acted as very much a cushion for a between Madge and the players. And the players confided in Te'o a lot. And that's what, again, across every club, the assistant coach plays a pivotal role in being that barrier between head coach and playing group. And Ben was that. So without him there, I'm fascinated to see how they fill that void.
Well, I'm fascinated that they use the mental health there with Ben, because at the end of the day, it's going to be known to everyone why he left at some point. Ben's going to talk, right? Because if he wants to be a future coach and still be involved in the game and have those opportunities, at some point someone's going to say, well, why'd you leave? So if he didn't leave because of those reasons, why are they saying that, do you think?
Well, Donaghy didn't say that, in fairness.
Okay.
He said we want to look after their well-being.
All right.
But there was definitely talk coming out of the
Just
club
rumours
today
coming out.
that was circulating around, and he wanted it squashed. You've heard this too, Gordy.
Yes.
He
Yeah,
wanted
absolutely.
it squashed.
Okay.
Because he is a future coach.
I heard Ben's comfortable with his decision.
Yeah, and he is a future coach,
Gotcha.
and people speak so highly of him, Braith. Like, they talk about him as being a potential assistant to Billy and that, because they do see him as a future coach.
Yeah.
And Dave was right before, like, why would you want to squash that out of one of your assistants? That opportunity to make him grow. I just don't get it.
Boys, what's going on at the Broncos, honestly, so the Payne Haas situation blows up. The Broncos, I was critical how they handled the management of the addressing that departure of the best front rower in the game. They claimed to me that they didn't have time to prepare a press conference because they were blindsided by the decision of Payne Haas. The biggest club of what Donaghy wants the Broncos to be, he wants them to be the biggest and most powerful sporting club in Australia. They didn't know their best player was leaving. Today, they claim they had no idea their assistant coach, such a pivotal member within that coaching staff, the right-hand man to Michael Maguire, the defensive operator of the Broncos that helped win them a premiership, they had no idea. What is going on?
Can I ask a question? See, so with all that stuff, how have the players taken it?
Well, Ben Tolte took to a press conference this morning and revealed that he learnt the news of Ben Te'o's departure via Instagram. What is going on at the Broncos?
Gordy, you look at it, right?
Yeah.
Payne Haas has moved on.
Yeah.
The situation with yourself and being removed from the plaque and the room, the conference room, and now the assistant coach walks out round 3.
Do you know what I'd do?
What's going on with the leadership there? Is there a problem there with the leadership, or?
Well, I'm not in there, and Madge has asked me to come in the 4 walls, and I've declined. Alan Langer needs to go back and get in the 4 walls and wear the blue shirt. There's no one that brings a side together like Alan Langer. So if I was at the Broncos right now with that playing group, vulnerable with blokes leaving with the uncertainty, he's a guy that's always held every team together that I've ever played with.
But Alfie had the blue shirt when Kevy was coach, and
I know.
he surrendered that when Madge took over.
Not sure. But that's the question that I'd be asking, just to go back. And then no one knows because we don't hear anything. And then obviously the CEO didn't know that his assistant coach was unhappy. And people make decisions and you can make it overnight, bro.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something about Ben Terry. He's a man. So it probably would have pushed him to a point where no one wants to do that. He's 4 years into, and he's got a young family as well.
I asked the journos last night what they thought of Gordy's name being removed from the headquarters up in Brisbane. What did you guys think of that?
It's a disgrace. No suit, administrator at that club, is going to do what Gordon did for that club. Like, I've watched the Broncos since their inception. There is not a bloke that gave more, played harder or tougher than Gordon. You know, Payne Haas is up in that era now, but there was no one. He won 3 premierships. He captained the club. He won a Clive Churchill medal. There was a famous story that Bennett told me once when Gordon took over as captain, and I'll embarrass you here, Gordy, but when I think Kevy had retired at 2000, and they'd gone away on an army camp, and there was 4 blokes in contention for the job. There was Gordon, Darren Lockyer, Petro, and Shane Webke. And they were at this army camp, and they'd been told this story by the commando, where there was women and children down the bottom of the hill, and they were being abused and bashed and everything like that. And they said, but under no circumstances are you to go down there until the reinforcements arrive. Well, everyone's gone back to their groups and they've done exactly what the commando said, except Gordy, who went back and told his group exactly what's going on. He said, now we're going down that hill to take them by force. And the commando said to Wayne Bennett, he said, there's your captain. He said, because sometimes you listen to instructions, but leaders know when to ignore them. And that's who he was.
Good story, that one, Gordy. Yep. All right, with both teams coming off a win and the Broncos in the headlines again, the stage is set for an epic battle of Brisbane.
The Battle of Brisbane. It's the Broncos and the Dolphins. Big brother, little brother. 6 times they've met since the Dolphins came into the comp in 2023. The Bronx have won 5 of those half-dozen matchups.
Here we go. Battle of Brisbane begins.
The records, they don't mean anything in rivalry games. We all know that. For starters, let's look at the list of former Broncos now with the Dolphins.
Powerful, yes! Herbie's in!
Herbie Farnworth Thompson, Farnworth and Flagler.
The Dolphins are showing promise.
Asako, Nicarima and Cobbo. And don't forget Max Plath and his old man, Johnny Plath. Johnny Plath didn't just play for the Broncos, he won 4 premierships with them. 4. This great little man with a big man's game. But don't expect the likes of Katoni Staggs to be politely giving away the keys to the house anytime soon.
Stag will run away and win the Battle of Brisbane for the Broncos.
Yes, the Battle of Brisbane. The Broncos and the Dolphins right after the Warriors and West Tigers.
And it just gets better and better.
Friday night football, right here on Fox League.
Yes, it's the Broncos up against the Dolphins live on Fox League, Friday 8 p.m. And this game has produced some classics since the Dolphins have joined the competition, and both teams coming off a win.
7 o'clock in Queensland, which is good, yeah. No, look, it should be huge, right? I think there's 5 games in or 4 games. Brisbane have won most of them, and this was a great moment with Katoni Staggs. There's obviously Dolphins flags everywhere, and he just reminded them, this is our house, so or home, there it is. So it'll be a sellout, you'd imagine. If it's good weather in Brisbane on Friday, I might even sneak down there myself.
It's huge, yeah. Like you've got 2 of the best attacking teams in the competition going up against each other. You saw the Dolphins the other night, how they just really put the Sharks to the sword in the blink of an eye. And they've got match winners across the park, but the Broncos have had the wood on them. So, you know, like if the Dolphins are going to be a top 8 team this year, they need to stand up in this
My
one.
favourite players playing, boys, Herbie Farnworth. He's just the best to watch. his ability to beat tackles and create space for his teammates. And against the Sharks, it was Herbie. I mean, how does a centre, with all that star quality that the Dolphins have, it was the centre.
Well, that's what Dog said last night. It's the battle of the two best centres in the world. Because he's up against Katoni.
Well, with great respect to Katoni.
He had Staggs number one.
I don't think Katoni's number one.
All right.
Herbie's right up there, and so is Stephen Crichton. But
Herbie's in great form.
oh, mate,
He's always in great form.
Yeah, that's right. Even when they were losing.
it was it's only injury that stops
But
him.
what the dog says goes. All right, let's take a look at the ins and outs of round 4. Thanks to Sportsbet, and there's some big ones here heading into the weekend. Billy Smith returns for the Roosters with e-bike concussion. I haven't heard that one before. Dewey named at halfback, Madden at 6 for the Tigers. This is huge for the Warriors. Metcalf returns at 5'8", but Boyd remains the 7. Sherry named the New South Wales Cup for the Dogs. Haas out. Reynolds returns, Gordy. And for the Newcastle Knights, Fletcher Sharp named at 5'8". He was a late exclusion last week. He's back in, which is huge for them. But the story out of this really is Luke Metcalf.
Massive.
What a season he had last year, leading the Dally M's. But the guy in his spot, Tanner Boyd, has been in career best form.
Absolutely.
But they have found a spot for both of them. Do we like this?
So there's a training session tomorrow over in New Zealand with the Warriors, and that will be the day for Metcalf to prove he is absolutely in the team. Andrew Webster has chosen Luke in the anticipation that everything's going to be A-OK. He's done everything he can as far as the rehab, back from a torn ACL, suffered last June. To get him back so soon, and what are we, round 4, that's a huge plus, huge.
It's also a brave decision by Webster, isn't it? Like Metcalf, last year before his injury, he was leading the Dally M's. He was playing 7. He'd said that he wanted to be the main man, right? But Boyd's come in this year and he's played so well that you just couldn't move him. And he seems like a natural 7, doesn't he? And Metcalf would far bit into the 6th jumper. But I just think on every front, it's just good coaching from Webster because, Tanner Boyd went down there from the Gold Coast, where he was a superstar kid, but he never really found his way as an NRL player. And over the summer, they've made him into a guy that's up near the top of the leaderboard on the Dally M's. And the guy that's leading the Dally M's, right? He was an off cut from the Dragons,
Jackson Ford,
and he's trained him. So at the start of the season, you're thinking no Metcalf, no Barnett. Geez, they're going to struggle to make the 8. But the 2 blokes that have come in for him. He's done a wonderful job.
They're flying. Great to see over in New Zealand. Now let's get to the Dragons, and Flano resist the urge to make any changes, even though they are 0 from 3 calls.
Yeah, look, I did a story on Fox Sports Online this week saying the Dragons are 0 and 3, right? The reason they extended Flanagan at the end of last year was supposedly, to create stability, right? It hasn't created stability. I, for the life of me, can't understand when they'd finished 15th last year why they had to extend him after that to the end of 2028. There was no one beaten down the door.
Where hasn't it created stability, Coles?
Well, Dave, we're still talking about it. We're still talking about it. They've started the season 0 and 3, mate.
Yeah, understand that.
And I think in fairness, we saw on the weekend, right, in that loss to Parramatta, they had multiple opportunities to win that game.
I agree.
But the elephant in the room remains, right? They've got 2 halves that aren't getting the job done. They had so much opportunity to win that game, and every time you bring up the name Kyle Flanagan, you get accused of bullying and it's unfair on the family and everything like that. Well, at the moment, it's still not working, Dave.
So what would you do?
They've brought in Atkinson, right, and tried to turn him into a 7, right, with only limited experience. He's younger than Kyle. Kyle's 27, he's 25. He hasn't played near as much first grade. Flanagan's played over 125 NRL games now. He's played the majority of his career as a 7. Hasn't played it as a 6. But it's almost like it's been switched this year, so it puts the pressure on Atkinson.
Yeah, I think it's unfair that all the pressure's on Atkinson.
It is. The pressure is now on him. It's not on Kyle.
I'm with you on the results, but I completely... The reason Daniel Atkinson left Cronulla was to be a starting halfback in the NRL. The St George Illawarra Dragons gave him that opportunity of his dream to be a starting halfback in the NRL.
Yeah.
He's 3 games into that journey.
He is 3 games into that journey, right? But that halves combination, Dave, I don't think it's going to take the
So
Dragons to where they want to go.
Are you blaming Atkinson for having a dream, or are you blaming the people that made the decision?
Are you writing Atkinson off
Not
as a
at all.
halfback?
Not at all. But you're
Mate,
just
saying
saying
that
that
he's-
Atkinson saying it was his dream.
But he's saying
what I'm saying.
Claus wants to swap the halves.
But okay, so what?
No, Atkinson
No,
wants to be a
I'm saying
seven.
Kyle Flanagan, Dave, right,
Yep.
is not a 5'8". When he took the line on the other day, right, he didn't have the strength, the size, the speed to get through.
Sure.
If that's Ethan Strange, who is a 5'8", he goes through.
Yeah.
Right, that's my concern with the Dragons at the moment.
Okay, so
like
who-
they bought Keon for next year, and he's a great signing.
Yep.
I don't see the problem at the Dragons.
Who plays
being-
in the half?
Listen, well, this is what we talk about, Dave.
Yep.
Kyle's signed for another year, hasn't he?
Yep.
And the club spoke about going out and getting a top flight 7, right? Atkinson's the bloke they landed on. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player. What I'm saying is the opportunity, it stared us in the face the other day, Dave.
Yep.
They had
Agree,
so
mate.
many opportunities
But
to
you
win that
still
game.
haven't told me who's coming into the halves next week.
Well, this is where their recruitment's not right, Dave.
Okay.
Like so
So that's your point.
since Flanagan's arrived, right, he's bought Gutho. Now, Jason Riles, and we criticise him, I criticise him when he let Gutho
Mm-hmm.
go. But hindsight tells you, by signing Isaiah Ongi and letting Gutherson go was the right move.
Great call.
Gutho has been a tremendous competitive player over the stretch of his career, but he is getting towards the back end. He hasn't got the speed he once had, and he's still signed for another year beyond this, right? You've got Damien Cook there. Again, he's playing well, right? But
Yep.
he's getting another
Coles,
year.
you can't-
So Flano's got his
You
fingerprints
can't
over
have
this
your
squad.
cake and eat it. So you can't
He
say it was a
shouldn't
good
have got
signing at
an
the time,
extension when he
and
did.
now it's not. You got to get the players into the club first.
Well, the only thing,
That's
well,
what
But
they have to do.
he's got players. I just spoke about some.
But you're now saying he's an ordinary
No,
signing.
I'm saying that I have, at the start of the season, right, I had concerns when I looked at the Dragons and I'm thinking to myself, of all the rosters in the competition, when it comes to attack, I think they're the most limited.
I don't disagree.
Do. And yet he's got halves there who they created so many opportunities there the other day.
they're like
Dave.
an X factor.
And it won't work, Dave.
But
It won't
they've
work.
created those halves too, though. Like King Tonga is there, right?
Yep.
He's fit.
So that's where I was getting to.
Yeah.
Who comes in?
And Glover, they got rid of Glover last year.
Glover there. And Cade Reed's sitting there,
And
but
Cade Reed's
not
there.
ready yet.
But there's a bit of a pattern there, right? Like they could have went a different angle, but they've gone this way.
They've gone this way.
So
Because they've
who's-
extended Kyle.
By next season, yes.
Can I tell you something? They're struggling to score points. They were actually really competitive the other day, right? They had Val Holmes that they were just throwing the ball to him like under eights, like the halves were. And I normally stay out of the way they play, right? Because I'm more of an effort guy. And they got 2 big back rows that run really good lines.
Yep.
They got Sloan, right? I don't know what that kid's done so bad. He's a bit of X factor. He can score points. All this space that they were creating, you would think that someone with his space, speed and agility, would love that type of game. And the way the rules have changed, because he's a bit slight, you think that he would thrive in this.
Well, even King Tonga, I mean, his defence was poor last year. Everyone would admit that. But his attack, he was there fair.
Yeah.
He was there fair last year.
And that's what they're losing.
Look, I'm happy.
He was their creator.
Granted, hey, if they don't get the result this week,
Yeah.
there'll be changes. There has to be changes. Flano can't keep going.
Can we
with
quote
this.
you on that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Because
We'll
that's
revisit
Put it
this
up on
next
the
week.
wall.
There's no question in the world, Dave. Flanagan is a proven good coach, right? And he's won a premiership. And every time they go out in the field, they do play for him. Like, they're so competitive. But the attack's not there, mate.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not going
Agreed.
to
They had
change. I'm
ample-
saying with the halves combination that they've got
Okay.
at the moment,
Okay.
it isn't working.
Yep. So you want
And they've decided
King
that that's
Tonga.
their one. No, I'm not saying King Tonga, mate. Like, honestly, you want to know who they should have gone for? You're looking at Tanner Boyd hasn't got a contract for next year.
Yep.
Why aren't the Dragons
Toby
bashing down
Sexton.
his door?
Toby Sexton.
Like,
got
seriously,
moved on
why
as well.
aren't they?
So
Is it because they've already got
That's
it?
a fair call.
They've settled.
Are you happy with leaving that combo for the rest of the year? as it is?
I just said to you, if they don't get the result, there'll be changes. There has to be
So
changes.
if they beat the Titans, everything changes?
Well, if a win's a win.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, sorry.
All right, update from the Judiciary, boys. NRL wants to hit Couchman with 4-match ban. Couchman seeking 3 matches. Thoughts on this?
Look, it wasn't an intentional tackle. You know, it's a rugby league accident gone bad. But the fact of the matter is, poor Hopgood's lying there. His season's over. His season's over because it is a dangerous action. That's why the game's trying to get this tackle out. It's not a traditional hip drop.
It's a dangerous
but
accident.
4 weeks for Couchman up against the other bloke having his season ended. that's a fair result for Couchman.
Yeah, agree. 4 weeks is fair enough. Everything Crawls just said, I agree with.
I don't think it's intentional.
No
I think it's an
intention.
accident.
Even Eels coach Jason Rowell said the same thing. Very unfortunate.
All right, stick around, journos, and tonight following NRL 360, it's face-to-face with Manu Vadavai.
In a cell 24/7 by yourself, looking at the walls, thinking of a lot of things. To have that fall from grace was something that I kind of needed, that wake-up call.
The base is unleashed.
Don't know too much about what was going through my head. Everything was blank. Bodine found me and just sat with me the whole time.
Unless Bodine Thompson follows you,
Yeah.
like
I don't
that's
know.
just one of those.
We would be here.
Yeah.
Putting the foot down. Far too vain. Nobody in front of him.
I didn't know I had that speed. Surprised myself there too.
When you got your first paycheck, you went to your dad and said, "You don't have to work anymore."
Yeah. It always gets me. Fuel the fire for myself to go as hard as I can and try and make a living out of it so I can provide for them.
It's no fairy tale. That is gonna hurt.
Just gave him one little push and he threw it back in.
New Zealand try.
You like terrorising the Kangaroos.
Yeah. I just broke down and knew that was the end day.
Welcome back. This Thursday, DCE returns to Brookie. It's the Seagulls up against the Roosters live on Fox League, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. How good's this going to be, Gordy?
Oh, it's going to be huge, right? DCE, obviously the way it all unfolded last year, and it was the side that he wasn't talking about going to. I think it was the worst kept secret. Even I knew that one. So I know nothing. So how does he play? I tell you what, if I was DCE, he has penciled this game in as soon as the draw comes out. And he'd like to be playing better, but I think we might see the return of him playing against his old mates. There'll be some friendly banter and some serious stuff, but it should bring out the best in DCE, you would think.
It's a big game for both clubs, isn't it? Because the Roosters were embarrassed last week by Penrith. Manly were embarrassed in their last game against Newcastle. There's been all this talk, aside from DCE returning, about Jake's future in the team and whether he's done. And you would imagine, because of his standing within that Manly side, that they will do everything in their power
Good point.
to pick up around him, which just makes it harder for the Roosters. Like Manly are a different beast when they're at their best at Brookvale.
It's a tough spot to win.
It would be a really fascinating game because the Chooks, you know, we haven't seen much of the new halves combination, but from what we've seen, it's hard to see how it's perfect because Walker wants to be that chief playmaker. Cherry Evans has been that chief playmaker for 15 years. He's too late to change. He plays his best football when that's the case.
Dave, you wrote the last week 6 reasons to save Anthony Seibold. Let's have a look again at those 6 reasons. There it is.
Oh, wow. Who's that bloke?
Look at
Who's that? My kids have never met that bloke.
What's going
That
on
looks
with
like
that
little
hair?
Nicky.
That looks
That look like
Little
I haven't
Dave
seen him.
Riccio.
I love that hairstyle. It suits you, Dave.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk us through your 6 reasons.
Well, as I explained, we're going back hero again. Okay,
Oh,
no
yeah,
worries.
yes, we are.
Well, as I said, it was too early, fellas. It's way too early to move Anthony
Okay, give us your
Seibold.
6 reasons, mate. That's what
Well,
we're here
don't.
for.
Okay, too early, right? One who would come in immediately.
Yep. No one.
Well, okay, but you said it, not me.
Well, I'm
Okay,
Is there no
sorry.
coaches out there?
You know,
No? Okay.
Look, the players absolutely need to take ownership. I think they missed 41 tackles or something against
Yeah.
the Newcastle Knights, and my understanding is they did. In that review meeting post the Knights game, they did. They put their hand up.
The roster you didn't
It's
like?
too early. I don't
draw
like the
you
roster.
didn't
You
like?
like the roster. I don't like
No,
it.
no, you don't. Yeah.
I left them out of my top 8, fellas. So
Okay.
this comes as no great shock to me.
All right.
But I would love to see a response. Seriously, a response against the
You
Roosters.
would think so, right? You would think so. What about Jake? We spoke about Jake last night. Bulldog was pretty hard on him and tried to act like it was everyone else when it was him who wrote the article. But what do you...
That's unusual.
Yeah. Let's not be too hard on him, even though I wrote the article.
Guys, don't
in
be
my
too
column.
hard on him.
What do you guys think of Jake at the moment?
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like, we all watch Jake play. We all know what Jake's capable of when he was at his best, but he's not at his best. You know, I said it last week on the show in that game against the Knights. There was 2 runs, and I know Jake plays a different sort of role, and he'll come up with his 40 tackles and that. But when you look around the league and what the other locks do and what Jake's doing at the moment, it's hard to see not only how he plays into next year, but how he finishes this year in the starting team. And that's with due respect to Siebes too, that's a really, really tough decision to make at Manly because
huge.
you know Tommy's your captain, and you've got that club that's built around that culture that they've brought. Yet the coach would be looking, and he'd be seeing what we see too.
Yeah,
but that's also the job of a coach to be the leader and to make the tough choices. So. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this plays
He'd be
out.
one of their most favourite sons, wouldn't they? Like if you go Tuvey, Menzies,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
those guys, you know, I mean, like the Stewart boys, like he'd be up there. So it's really hard, and you can only judge Jake on what he's set and the standards that he's set in the game, right? And he squeezed a lot out of his. Mate, he squeezed a lot out of the orange. And I just hope that the players can live for him. Because when you get older sometimes and you're not at the best and you lose your speed and you lose all that kind of stuff, you need the young kids to give you the enthusiasm.
I think the most important person in the room isn't Anthony Seibold. I think it's Manly CEO Jason King, being a former front rower, a former premiership winner, who has bled for Manly and understands when the legs are done. Yeah, he's been there, done that, Kingy, and he would know. He could have that honest conversation as a former Manly premiership winner himself.
But he'd have a job for life, Jake, wouldn't he?
Oh,
you think on the northern beaches?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Crawls, what's your beef of the week?
Beef of the week goes back to the Bunnies last week, and Wayne Bennett post-match, how, you know, they got the win and everyone looks at Wayne, oh, here comes grumpy Wayne again, and they're talking about that amazing defensive effort where I think they held the Tigers out for 8 sets in a row at that point. And I'm just thinking to myself, and Bennett come out and said, you know, that he wasn't happy with the performance, and if we continue to play like that, we'll finish further to the bottom of the ladder than the top of the ladder. And everyone's thinking, what's Wayne talking about? But if you go back to prior to that 8 sets, that's Cody Walker, right? That's Cody Walker being Cody Walker. Frustrated, doing stupid things that let his side down, right? You had other moments in this game where Latrell gave up the 8-point try, right, with a thing that was always, you know, it was careless, it was over the try line, he wasn't going to stop the try, but that wasn't the biggest thing because earlier in the game, Latrell pushes these 2 passes, silly passes, coming out of trouble that lead to turnovers, right? They've given away a penalty after something else had happened, and from the kick-off, Keon's dropped the ball. And so they go back to the restart after a penalty try or something. A penalty in front, and Latrell kicks the ball dead. Like all these brain-dead moments that are coming out from these 2 guys who, for me, are the barometer of the attitude within South Sydney.
I reckon he's playing ducks and drakes. I reckon he loved it. They made
Bennett?
I reckon they made 15 handling errors. They go against the Tigers side that were full of enthusiasm and confidence, and they won, and they were nowhere near their best.
Gordy, I'll tell you something, right?
He's getting you off the scent.
If he didn't even say it to me, Gordy, I was watching the game at home, and I'm just evaluating what's happening.
Yeah, but that cranky press conference.
But it needed to be said, mate. The week earlier, Cody gave up 2 penalties against the Roosters. One of them led to that last try to Tedesco, right? Cody's 36 years of age, mate. He's got to be smarter. If him and Latrell don't lead the charge there, we know that they can do all the flashy things.
Do you know what he's
but it's
trying to
their
stop us from saying?
attitude that will determine if Souths are a good team this year or just a team that misses out in the
They're
eight.
a heavyweight.
They are a heavyweight, but he's saying they're not playing like heavyweights. But they're not, mate. Unless those 2 blokes change their attitude. You saw a few years ago with Demetrio, mate.
Yeah.
Things fell apart when those guys weren't on the same page as the rest of the boys.
He'll get them on it.
Thank you, journos. We'll see you guys next week. Up next, it's the Players' Perspective with Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies. Welcome back. Time now for the Players' Perspective with Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies. Boys, thanks for joining us. It was a tough loss last Thursday, a close one to the Doggies. What did you take from it?
Yeah, I thought it was a very tough and physical game, but there was a lot of things we took out of the game, good and bad. We addressed that, and we've got a long turnaround now, so we're looking forward to get a bit of training in us and get back out there on Sunday.
How do you guys turn it around? Obviously, you beat Manly in round 1 and lost the last couple. What have you been working on to turn that around?
I think it's only early in the year, but we've got to get back to what works for us and playing our style of footy. We've played in tremendous conditions with the rain and stuff like that, so we need to get back to what works for us. And we spoke as a team on being more disciplined, working with the refs, and that's actions that we can control as a team, as individuals, is being better in that area and giving ourselves a shot.
Hudson, Paul Crawley here. The Melbourne Storm last week leading up to the grand final rematch, they didn't want to borrow the fact that they had spoken about what happened last year in the grand final as motivation for this year. It's a similar story with you blokes now. Have you spoken about it, or does it not play a factor? Your game against Cronulla.
Yeah, we definitely spoke about it, what went wrong against Cronulla. Yeah, we spoke about it in the off-season. We had to reflect on it, and I think that as professional athletes, as footy players, you've got to reflect, you've got to look back, and to grow as a player, you have to do that, and you've got to be vulnerable with each other, and we did that in the off-season, and we know what we need to work on and be better as a team. And yeah, it's still early days, and we back our system, back our coaching staff and the boys here. We've got such a great close bunch of boys that we love playing with every week. So yeah, I'm really excited for Sunday.
Morgan, Dave Riccio here, mate. No Josh Papali'i, no Matty Nicholson. The Sharks have got a decent forward pack. Do you take this personally, this one, in standing up in the absence of two pretty strong teammates that will be out of this game?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, Big Papas are lost, and I want to step up for the team and do as best as I can. And I think every forward in our team will be thinking the same thing. Obviously, he brings so much to the table, and each game he is a massive figure of the game. So yeah, for me personally, I want to put a good performance in for the boys and for the team as well.
Hudson, also last week's that game against Canterbury, it was really physical, and it was like watching a 1980s game, the tackling, the ferociousness of it. You guys, you sort of set a bar pretty high, but do you go out there, is that the sort of defence you like to play?
Yeah, we back ourselves in terms of physicality, and we like to go after every forward pack and every team we play. But there's a fine line that we need to start to get right in terms of head highs. That's been around the game for 100 plus years, so we need to be better as that individually. But yeah, the aggression side of it, that's what I love as a player, and yeah, love going after it every week.
Ethan Sanders has been impressive to start his first 3 games. What do you like about him, and what's he like to work with?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure to play with him the last 3 weeks. He's such a composed kid, very level-headed, knows his strengths in his game, and also knows what he needs to work on as well. He's always one of the last out here on the field, and such a student of the game. And yeah, I love playing with him, and I thought that he steered the team around really well, kicks well, speaks really loud on the field, and he's got great direction for such a young half. I think he's got such a bright future in the game.
You got such a young, exciting squad. What did you guys learn from the final series last year? What did you guys take out of it?
I think it was a very disappointing finish. Obviously, we had a great season. We had a bit of form going into it, but then when the finals came around, we couldn't quite get the jobs done both times. So for us, it's looking at the details during the week and getting all that side of the game right, and going out there on the weekend and delivering it. I think we did have a decent crack in the year, but like I said, the finals weren't good enough, so it kind of fueled us on for the pre-season and the season to come.
Hudson, I'm a big fan. I love the way that you play, especially your physicality. We saw that even in the loss against the Bulldogs, and you just get better every year. Surely you've got rep football on your mind?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I want to start in Origin, wherever that be, on the field, and that's what I'm going after this year, and want to win a series for New South Wales. But I'm well aware that comes on the back of great form at Clubland and building strong habits and being the best player and teammate that I can be for the Raiders, and fingers crossed get the chance to represent New South Wales this year. Yeah,
Hudson, you do have a young team there in Canberra. Have you had to step it up with your leadership the last couple of years?
Yeah, that's a space that I'm really passionate about in growing as a person, on and off the field, and having a younger group now is I want to set the standards for players to look up to and lead the way on and off the field. And we've got a great leader in Joe Tapine that I get to look up to, and everyone gets to follow on the field. And he's a tremendous leader, and he's got Sticky above him. So the club's in great hands in terms of leadership, and just try and get better every year in that area.
Hey Hudson, have you had the tool belt out this week? Trying to fix that coach's box that got smashed up last week by Cameron Ciraldo?
Yeah, no. Surely we're due for a new stadium, mate. It was leaking at half time. It looked like rain was coming through and windows are breaking. So fingers crossed we get something sorted. Maybe you got a bit of pull, don't you, Gordy? So get it going.
Just give us some young supplements, mate. I'll come down there and do it myself.
He's had enough drama, Gordy. He's staying away from it this week. I'm surprised Ricky hasn't coached. I'm surprised Ricky hasn't broken a coach's box in Canberra. Just on that, I mean, how did Ricky handle the finals series last year? It was a tough one for all of you. And we know how passionate Ricky is and how close you got. Must have been a tough one.
Yeah, it was very tough. We had an army camp pretty early on in the pre-season, and we kind of spoke about it then, and everyone got it off the chest, what we needed to get off the chest really. And once we all spoke about it, it was time to move on. We couldn't really dwell on it. We could only use it as fuel for the pre-season, like I said before, and try and use that as fuel for the season, and really push to work harder. And I thought all the lads ripped in the pre-season, and it'll start to show soon with the games.
Good on you, lads. Love watching you play, and good luck for the rest of the year.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Hudson Young and Morgan Smithies. They join us quite often, actually. I love talking to those guys. Hudson's come a long way. What a player he is. And I know he made a few errors the other night, but he's one of those competitors. Sticky would love him because he's just tough. He's uncompromising. He plays every single play, and he has turned into a leader of that club.
He's just not ready for Origin.
He's also got that flair about him.
No, he's not ready for Origin.
First pick, Gordy.
He can play his side, then he can come up over the other side, put a kick through. If you're picking the Origin back rowers right now, we've got some beauties in New South Wales. There's
Preston's
Angus
good.
Crichton. Preston's in great form. Liam Martin showed last week that he's going to be there again.
There's a lot of them.
But
You can only
right
pick
at
two
the
of them,
minute,
mate.
Hudson Young and Liam Martin for mine. They're the New South Wales starting back rowers.
Mate, I tell you about Hudson Young, he takes the pressure off your 6 and 7 because he's able to do stuff.
He's
himself.
aggressive.
He's a great player.
Thank you, Crawls. Thank you, Dave. Don't forget tonight, following NRL 360, it's face to face with Manu Vatuvei. Welcome back, Gordy. Ryan Couchman has been suspended for 4 matches. He tried to get it downgraded to 3, but was unsuccessful, so he will miss the next 4 weeks.
Well, a season-ending injury. I think he's lucky with 4 weeks, but I still think it was an accident, and he's a little bit unlucky.
It was an accident, but unfortunately,
absolutely.
he's got to do the time there for that one. All right, that's it for NRL 360 for tonight. Now it's time for Face to Face.